All right, team, how are we feeling after that episode? This is a pulse check. Season 3, episode 2. Welcome back to Rolling with Katie. My name is Katie. Thank you so much for listening and or watching. If you're listening and you'd rather be watching, you can watch on Spotify or on YouTube. If you're listening, thank you for listening. What's up, guys? Thank you so much. Again, I just feel like I have to say thank you to anybody who takes the time to listen to this, because the hardest part of this new show is the mental game that I have with myself. It's hard for me to imagine that people would be interested in listening to just me. The way that I view Popcorn Chats was like, Michaela was really the draw for that show, and I was more just like the behind the scenes person who did all the editing and stuff. And these are thoughts that like inhibited me from doing this show for a while. I've finally kind of overcome them and followed the like feeling that I had that I really wanted to do this. Still battling those intrusive thoughts. Yeah, so all that being said, I just appreciate anybody who takes the time. You're the best. Lilas. I also owe you all an apology because I said I was going to have an episode in between my coverage of the premiere of season 3 of Euphoria and this episode with like a massive check-in, because I feel like the time in between the last Popcorn Chats episode and now there has been so much that has happened. I want to debrief with you guys about stuff not just in my life but like in the world, all the pop culture moments, movies and TV and music that has come out since the recording of the last episode. And then on top of that, I feel like I need to provide context about what happened with Popcorn Chats, what happened with my life, why am I back in Wisconsin. The last episode of Popcorn Chats, I was in Los Angeles. I would like to keep the same episode structure that we used to have somewhat on Popcorn Chats, where we started every episode with a check-in, but it doesn't really make sense for me to be doing that at this moment in time, even though I'm kind of doing that right now. It wouldn't make sense. Like, I have a lot to provide context about and where I'm at in my life. That's kind of that. Ran out of time last week. Sorry about it. It will come. I'm really holding myself accountable on these Euphoria episodes and trying to get those out in a timely fashion. So I had to prioritize that this week over the massive check-in episode. I don't think it's a stretch for me to say that y'all probably give way more of a fuck about what I have to say about Euphoria rather than about my own life. And valid. But that episode is still coming for those who may be interested. Okay, let me shut up and let me get into this. Lord, like, be with me at this time and let me summon the words, right? Holy shit. Overall, like, I am liking this season so far. Part of me feels like that's kind of a hot take. I haven't engaged with a ton of online discourse about Euphoria just because I want my thoughts and opinions to be somewhat unswayed by other people's opinion. However, that's obviously what's showing up on my FYP, so it's somewhat hard to avoid. I do see some things, and if and when I do kind of borrow a take or mention a take from somebody, I'll try to mention that person whose thought it was. I agree with some things that I'm seeing online and other things I don't. One of those things being like, this show is just totally and completely out there and it's completely off the rails. Again, overall, I think the way the story is playing out, the way the characters are being connected and brought back together, where they are at in their lives as individuals, I think that all makes sense and it's playing out in a pretty satisfying way, in my opinion. The execution of said plot movement and said character dynamics, that's a whole other story. And that's kind of what I flip-flop with. And I'm gonna try to like get my thoughts straight. This show has so many really strong moments, but like the heart behind it, the horse's mouth that all this shit is coming from, is what I have a problem with. And that kind of like taints even the strongest moments of the show. I feel like I'm being really vague, so let's dive into what I'm actually motherfucking talking about. Also, it's 4:20 when I'm recording this, so to all who celebrate, Lilas Mazel, whoop whoop. Let's do this. Let's start with the good. right? Let's start with what we loved about this. I love that this was a Maddy episode. I missed her so much in the first episode. There were a lot of people I missed in the first episode. Where the fuck was Jules? Another character that I feel like I'm kind of missing is who was that earlier that I thought of? It's not the vape girl. Kat, obviously, but like I was able to emotionally prep myself that she wasn't going to be there this season. Not Ethan, not Gia. I mean, all these people would love to see them. I don't think it would make sense if Ethan showed up. Like, he's not needed. Loved his blowout show-stopping performance in season 2, though. Lilas Ethan. Definitely don't miss Elliot. Now I'm just listing all the characters that I literally was not thinking of earlier. Suze. That's who it was. Where the fuck is Suze? They've been flashing that picture of Cassie walking down the aisle in every promo. I think that's next episode. I'm missing Suze. I think in the first season, episode 2 of season 1 was also the Maddy episode. I could be wrong about that. Regardless, I do hope that this season kind of does that same thing where it's following each of these characters, because I loved that so much in the first season. Maybe the second episode was McKay's episode. Where's that guy at? He's gone. He's long gone. Anyways, okay, back on track. Okay, so the good things about this episode that I really enjoyed. I really don't want to get bogged down by the Sam Levinson of it all in this moment, so we're going to try not to do that. I really love the idea of Rue making this deal with the devil and that being the thing that is setting her free. Something I didn't touch on in the first episode was Rue's kind of relationship with God. I do think there is a lot of like Christian or just like God in general references in the season so far. It was really heavy in the first one just because that was like Rue's episode and kind of introducing us to where she's at. And one of the things about where she's at right now is she has like accepted God and she's decided that she believes in God and she has to believe in something to keep her going. I think it was working with Lori or working for Lori and kind of that like all hope is lost situation that led her to that, which I think is really interesting. I also mentioned last episode that what does she think is going to happen with this situation? Like, why in the world does she think that this guy would give her a better outcome than the situation that she has going on with Lori? Like, that is the kind of thing that I still have a problem with in a way. I think this episode answered some of the questions that I had after the premiere. We're just meant to believe that Rue admires that this guy runs strip clubs and it's supposedly her dream job, and that alone is supposed to like be enough for us to buy that she thinks this sus as fuck man is gonna like help her out of the situation with Lori. But then, you know, when you think about it, what she's doing with Lori, that's so bad. Like, she could die, but then the guy held a gun to her head at the end of the thing, so it's just like kind of stupid. You kind of have to suspend your disbelief a little bit. Regardless, I do still like Rue's storyline. I think the God stuff is interesting. I'm interested to see how this stuff with Alamo and Lori and them fighting over Rue is going to play out. I think that's really intriguing. And again, like, credit where credit is due. Hats off to whoever played a role in having that be the story. Because I am not going to say it was one person because we don't know about that, even though his name is on the shit. Anyways, going back to the fact that this is a Maddy episode, and another thing that I really like about the plot and character dynamics and how things are kind of organically being brought back together. Love the little catch up that we get about where things left off with Maddy and Cassie. They, you know, haven't spoken since high school, and I think a lot of people might be able to relate to the way that it feels to see somebody from high school again, and like wanting to present yourself in a certain way to kind of manipulate and have control over the way that they perceive you, especially somebody that you have not the most comfortable history with. I think it's super interesting that Cassie has been holding on to this guilt over what she did to Maddy, and she's so worried about Maddy's perception of her. But I think she's also aware that Maddy has power and influence. She knows that she's an expert in social media, so I think she wants to control Maddy's perception of her, not because she's a good friend wanting to make things up to her and genuinely apologize, but because she knows that Maddie's perception of her could influence other people's perception of her, just like in high school. If you would have told me all that about Cassie in season 1, I would have been like, that's wild. The Cassie that we have now in season 3 is such a departure from Cassie in season 1. There's a lot of reasons for that, and we can get into that when we get into the stuff that I don't love about this episode. Maddy clocks that right away with Cassie, that this dumb bitch has been holding on to this for all these years and letting it bog her down, and she just wants Maddie's forgiveness, and Maddy realizes that that will ultimately benefit her, so she forgives her. It's very organic and natural the way that these two characters come back together. Honestly, I love that we get this time jump and we get to see them kind of be friends, but a different version of friends again. They're going to be like frenemies. I'm interested to see how that plays out, especially when Nate gets involved in that too. I think that's going to be really interesting. So all of these like plot lines and storylines are leaving me like very intrigued, and it's very reminiscent of how I felt watching the first season. Again, I'm not saying everything about this is perfect. I know people are shitting on this show hard. However, I don't think it's garbage can, throw it away. Like, I'm not interested in watching the rest of the season. Just a little bit more about Maddy and Cassie. I think it's interesting the way that we're shown how they both have similar kind of views about OnlyFans and people making money on there. We have Cassie constantly trying to explain to Nate that like, no, it's actually like a really lucrative way to make money. You know, she's like trying to get him to take it seriously. And similarly, we have that with Maddy in that scene with her boss, where her boss is like reprimanding her because she hooked up the OnlyFans girl that she was helping with the Timothée Chalamet like actor that the agency represents. It's all about people's perception of sexuality, them kind of fighting within that to get people to take it seriously. It's cool that we're shown that, and that we have that knowledge that they have similar views about it, and then they're like brought together. I think what really carried this episode for me was all the interactions between two women. Like, there were so many scenes where it was just two women having a conversation or an interaction, and genuinely those scenes like carried the entire thing for me. The Maddy and Rue conversation in Maddy's apartment when Rue's smoking weed or something, really appreciated that scene. And Rue started talking about Jules, and Maddy was like genuinely being girly with her, and then she was talking about Cassie and Rue was like, round 2. Another thing that I thought was interesting about this episode, I feel like we got a couple little short films within the grander storyline and like episode that followed the main characters. The one was that OnlyFans girl who started making online content during COVID. It follows this one random ass character in their arch, and then they're somehow involved with like one of the main characters of the show. I kind of liked that, Maddy finding her on the beach or like helping her in that whole situation ending with her being reprimanded by her boss. The other situation is Angel, the stripper who worked at the strip club that Rue is working at now for Alamo, or her journey with her friend Tish going missing. That whole situation and the way it intertwines with Rue's character, I thought was so strong. Once again, just Zendaya's performance in this episode was incredible. I would be shocked if she is not going to win an Emmy for this season as well, because she's just knocking it out of the park with her performance of this character. I think watching her grapple with the guilt over what happened to Tish and what she had to do to get rid of the evidence for Tish, and then watching Angel's downfall because of her friend going missing, and then ultimately finding out how she passed away and what happened. Her ultimately going to that rehab that wasn't actually a rehab, bro. Do we think they like harvested her organs or something? Like, dude, yeah. Rue really did make a deal with the devil when he was like, we got places like that on speed dial. And she's like, that's really nice of you. And she's kind of like convincing herself, like, see, this guy is better than Lori. Like, I did make the right decision. But then she's like trying to check her in at the rehab, and they're like, nah, you don't need to check her in. That like vehicle pulled up. That makes me really sad. That makes me really upset It's a powerful storyline. The actress who plays Angel, Priscilla Delgado, did an incredible job with that character. It read like a phenomenal short film, honestly. I just don't appreciate the mouth it's coming from. Like, I don't appreciate that it's Sam Levinson behind it. That makes like how it ends, no matter how authentic that may be to like some people's experience, it just taints it because he does. Okay, I'll get into that later. Let me stop. That was just heartbreaking. When she found out about her friend, she kind of just lost control, and what ended up happening to her was just so devastating. Watching Rue's character just kind of be thrown in the middle of that and like be woven in and out of it. It's keeping the show like fresh and dynamic, I think. I know this is maybe jumping ahead a little bit, but how do people feel about Rue and Jules being back together? I'm gagged. I'm obsessed. I thought that the end of this episode, we had to wait till the end of the episode. We got our girl Jules back in frame, and I'm obsessed. She looks amazing. Slightly concerned. Really think the thing going on in Hollywood right now where people, but mostly actresses, are just wasting away in front of us. It's hard for me to talk about because I don't know the right way to talk about it. And that's a problem that I have, but like, holy shit. And that can be said for all of the women in this show, not just Hunter Schafer's character, but it's like, it's worrisome anyways. Rules is so back. Rules is so back in such a big way. It's not even funny. I'm a Rules believer. I'm a Rules stan. I don't care how dumb it is to believe in this couple. I love them mostly on behalf of my closeted self, who watched the show in 2019 and fell in love with them. And don't clock me by going back and listening to early podcast episodes if I'm like poo-pooing on that relationship. Please disregard, because A, it was probably some sort of internalized homophobia. And B, I was just really bitter at the time and was like, it's not good for either of them. Like, bitch, that's the whole fucking point of the show. Take a Xanax and relax. Like, you're fine. I'm just super glad that they're back. I really hope we don't have to wait till the end of the fucking episode next time. I want more Jules in this damn show. Want to know more about her life. Want to know more about the situation that she's in, being a sugar baby. We'll talk more about that. I thought her wig slayed. It slayed at 8. That elevator scene was quite cute. I just thought it was very sweet. You know, the eye contact and the subtle movements and their banter and their conversation. I think they're so back, and I'm excited about it. Let me move on because I could gush about gay shit till the cows come home, mama. The range of sexualities and like the different way that all of these characters perceive sex, I think that's what really defines the show at the moment. It's literally not about drugs anymore. It's about sex. That's all this show is about. And I think it's kind of saying at this point in time, like, sex is the real drug. Sex is the only drug. Jules doesn't believe people are meant to be monogamous. I thought that was kind of an interesting thing that she noted. This rumor is out that she's a sugar baby, and people obviously have their perceptions on that. And then when her and Rue are talking, she is like, who told you that? The situation we kind of find out is that like he's at home with his wife and kids, but it's fine because she knows about it, and people are meant to be monogamous. So it's like more nuanced situation. The whole point of that is when people think of a rich older man with a younger woman, you have all sorts of different perceptions of that based on like stereotypes and societal perceptions of what that is, societal generalizations of what that means. Shout out Eric Dane, his appearance in this episode. Loved it. Love to see it. Cal is in Sal. I think that's what it is. Sex and Love Anonymous. Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. You know what I'm talking about. My note says Cal and Sal, and I think that's cute. So we're going to call it Cal is in Sal. He's in recovery for his sex and love addiction. Get it? But, you know, he's viewing sexuality as something that he has to like rein in. And he's like, I was a hedonist and, you know, I'm reformed. He's in recovery from his addiction to sex and love. Crazy. I guarantee you Sam Levinson has been at some of those damn meetings or something. I don't know. Perverts Anonymous, is there one of those? Because he's going to those meetings. Okay, Cassie wants to give people what they want and make a profit on it, and I think that's tea, given who's playing that character. We can't not talk about it, people. What am I supposed to not talk about it? Oh my gosh, we'll get into that more. The whole Sydney Sweeney of it all. But in terms of like giving the people what they want, Sam Levinson and Sydney Sweeney with Cassie's character are, for better or worse, giving a certain group of people, MAGA incel men, what they want. Am I wrong? Clock it. But similarly, Cassie's character is saying to Maddy, I'll be anything. I can be anything. She just wants the male gaze like so bad. She's like, I will perform and do whatever for the male gaze. She wants to harness control of her sexuality though too at the end of the day and give the people what they want to make a profit on it. Interessante. Okay. Sorry, I have these notes and I just really want to get this thought out. Maddy is thinking about sex kind of similarly in terms of other people. She's like, yes, there's a business in this, there's a money in this, but then when Rue asks Maddy if she would ever be a sugar baby, or I think it was if she would ever be a sugar baby or if she would ever do OnlyFans, but either way she just looks Rue dead in the eyes and says, I'm not a hooker. So it's kind of like, it's fine for other girlies and I can help them. I know the business. I know men. I know what they want. I know how to turn this over into a profit. But at the end of the day, that is selling your body for money and I don't do that. Super interesting. See, so there's a range and it's different. Her and Cassie are different in that way. Also love that I'm not a hooker is low-key a callback to season 1 when she says, apparently... What did she say? Apparently none of you like me because I look like a hooker. Butchered that line. It makes sense for Maddy's character that she's like, no, I'm above that. Like, I'm a businesswoman. You know, kind of interesting. Like, take me seriously. And she doesn't take Cassie that seriously. She really doesn't take the girlie that she's taking pictures of on the beach that seriously either. She takes her more seriously than Maddy's boss, who's like, that bitch being in that picture with our guy tarnishes our brand. Maddy definitely respects her and sees the value in her more than that. But still, because of the nature of what she's doing to make money, Maddy views her as less than herself and less than somebody who doesn't do that. And then we have Nate's view of love and sexuality. It's that of control and possession, kind of similar to his dad's vibe. Like, it's something we have to harness. And we'll get more into the Nate Jacobs of this episode in a little bit. I do want to address and go more into that. I cannot believe he had Faye ass up like that. I also can't believe that she killed someone on accident. I just think the nature in which Sam Levinson found that actress is insane, and I don't know, I love that character down. Loved her line, was that a dinosaur? That is iconic. Going back to the Rue and Jules of it all, when Jules asks Rue if she's sober, which we will talk about. Rue says that she's staying away from things that could destroy her life. And then Jules is like, why'd you show up here? Thought that was a great line. Saw it coming after Rue said what she said. And I just loved that. I thought it was perfect. Again, reminds us like, yes, they're not good together. Okay. Like, that's the whole fucking point. Let's see how it plays out. I know I had a lot to say about like, why is Rue doing the shit that she's doing? And a lot of people are like, this is so unhinged. These people are so crazy, but it's like they do have motivations for the actions and the things that they're doing. They are crazy, but I think that's what makes this show so good. It's what made it so popular. It's what's made all these actors so famous, is because the level at which this show takes things to. Those are the things that I appreciated about this episode. I think there were a lot of good things to be said. Again, I'm like still very into the show, very intrigued at this point to see where it goes, and overall enjoying it a lot so far. Also just enjoying the ritual of it and being back talking to y'all. So let's talk about new information that we learned in this episode. I'm happy that certain questions are being answered. I think that is something that long-standing shows or shows that take fucking forever to come out with new seasons struggle with, is leaving shit unanswered. I'm not saying all of our questions are answered, okay? Here's what we did learn, and I could be missing some things. Let me know. This is a small thing, but with the whole Alamo and Lori kerfuffle that's going on, Alamo is talking to his assistant, and he says and reveals that Lori was a fucking junkie from the burbs, and basically he helped her get her start. So that's really interesting. Lori lore. Some stuff about Rue. One, she hasn't seen Gia in a while. I don't know if Gia is going to be in this season. I don't know if we know that. She hasn't spoken to her mom in 2 years. We had that really sad flashback moment where she called her mom and said she needed to come home, said she was clean, but sounds like her mom didn't let her come home and they have not spoken, which is really sad. I'm really glad that we are progressively being fed information. It gives me hope that we're going to continue to be given information and answers. I'm also happy to report that we do at least have Rue's answer as to whether or not she is clean. Is she a reliable narrator? Probably not. Is she a reliable source on her sobriety level? Probably not. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we did not see her take any hard substances in this episode. She is surrounded by it, whether she was at Lori's in the first episode, but now that she hasn't gone back, she's still completely surrounded by it at the strip club, giving it to the strippers when customers request it. She says when Jules asks her if she's sober, she says she's California sober. Same queen. Allegedly. So, like, do we believe that? I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure if you're an addict, you can't do anything. And that's probably like a really dumbass take on that. I think we're finding out that Rue's character maybe is just as crazy or just as like wild, and she might be just as misguided as she is and or was when she was taking hard drugs. She just sometimes struggles to have good judgment no matter what. That's at least Rue's answer. We don't know for sure just because I don't trust her. No offense. Which is funny because it's like we're trusting her on this entire show. She is the omniscient narrator, but it's like, where is she getting this information from? I think that that's an interesting aspect of Euphoria. We've never really had a reliable narrator with this story, and maybe that explains why it's so insane. Okay, I want to talk about Nate Jacobs because my main question that has not been answered, not been touched on, and has not been addressed is Nate girly pop? Is Nate fruity? Is he... What's the deal? Okay. Loved the conversation again with him and his father. Loved the Eric Dane appearance. Nate is having that conversation with his dad and saying, you're gay, you're in denial. Loved that banter. But, you know, like, how do we feel about Cal referring to himself as a hedonist rather than a homosexual? I do think it makes sense that he's like in some sort of denial in order to survive. My question is Nate doing the same thing? I hope we learn more about Nate's character. I'm excited for a Nate episode. A lot of people have commented on Jacob Elordi's performance, that he is checked out, that he clearly doesn't give a shit about this. People are also saying, like, what happened to Nate Jacobs? Like, is he medicated now? He went to therapy because he's not like exhibiting extreme abusive behavior like he did in season 1 and 2. People are like, this character has completely changed. Like, what's going on? Are they botching the character? Or is this a casket getting ready to blow? My prediction is Nate's already showing signs of like male loneliness epidemic adjacent, or like boohoo, like men are being put in like such a hard position. He's already like showing signs and tendencies of that type of situation. Like, woe is me, it's so hard. It's like, it's so hard being in California because all these liberals won't let me build on their eco-protected land. That type of bitch, you know? I think he has now in these first 2 episodes been emasculated so many times, and I am just like waiting for him to get to that level that we see on the Euphoria poster of this season. He's yelling like he's crashing the fuck out. I think he's gonna get there, and you can only expect that knowing what we know. Even if he has like grown, matured, knowing where he comes from, and just simply being a man in America right now, this shit can only last so fucking long. My sister made the comment that Nate and Cassie are in like a gender war against each other, especially in that scene when that other straight couple is helping them clean up after their dinner party and Nate confronts Cassie about the OnlyFans account because the other wife mentioned something to her husband and her husband brought it up to Nate. He continues to be kind of humiliated because he cannot live up to today's standards of what a man should be. And I think he's gonna lose his shit. The dicks on his phone in high school simply must be addressed. His relationship and fascination with Jules simply must be talked about. And I do once again hope that it's not a cop-out of it being like, oh, he just had everybody's dicks on his phone because he wanted to blackmail them and he's just a sick motherfucker. I really want the show to go there in that way. I don't think I'm super off base for wanting that and thinking that that is coming around the corner. Nate interacting with other men in this episode was extremely homoerotic, extremely phallic. He's like handing a guy a sausage with his bare hands. That little finger pop he did in his mouth. Jacob Elordi looks so good too. If he's checked out, which I don't think he is, I think he's playing a mellow version of a character to eventually get to that escalated part. He looks so damn good. So I don't give a shit if he's checked out. If he is doing us all a service by being here. Okay, so stop complaining, literally. I won't have it. No slander on him. They're passing a sausage around. Guy puts it in his mouth. They definitely had extended eye contact. It's there. And I was going to talk about this when I got into my Sam Levinson hate rant, but I feel like this show is so like sex overload, but in a way that's almost like insinuating it or like talking about it so much, but when push comes to shove, you're too pussy to show two women having sex on screen. Rue can leer at women in the strip club and this is her dream job and she likes girls, this, that, the other thing. Her and this girl can like make eye contact, but then we don't get to see them fucking in the car because you're too scared. Like, if we're gonna go there, let's fucking go there. If you're gonna have these men passing around a sausage link with their bare hands at the family cookout, then I want to see some heated rivalry style action. Go there then. What are we waiting for? But no, let's like put ice cream on Sydney Sweeney's. No, that's not in service to me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not everyone, but it just seems like some of the choices being made in the way that this show is shot and the execution of this plot is for a certain audience. It's for the male gaze. It's for the guys who bought that Sydney Sweeney soap. And I'm icked out by that. But then you're gonna dangle this like queer bait low key. I don't know. If your main character is gonna be a lesbian and you're gonna have her having sex with this stripper, like show it. And maybe that's a line in the sand that Zendaya has drawn, but I've seen her have sex with men on screen. We're all about gay characters, but why don't we get to see them be intimate? I don't know. Yeah, it just simply must be addressed. I want to know the tea, and I hope they go there with Nate's character. That's that. To wrap this up, for all the good things about this episode and the plot and the characters and the way that this is going, the music sounds like it's Sam Levinson on a keyboard, like clicking buttons. It's awful. I thought it was okay-ish in the first episode, but it's just like the lack of Labyrinth music is so apparent and what it's been replaced with is just not it. So that's really unfortunate. What taints these awesome characters and the way that in particular the women of the show are delivering on these performances with these characters is so strong. But what taints all of that is just the way that Sam Levinson seems to view women acting on their sexuality and the fallout of that, according to him. It just so often feels like women who make money through sex work, whether that be OnlyFans or working at a strip club or managing somebody who works on OnlyFans or a sugar baby, it just all seems like this brutalist fantasy porn of basically him like punishing women for whatever they do when it comes to their own sexuality. That's what I kind of meant before when I was talking about Angel and her storyline. I do think that that is like a very beautiful, well-performed, interesting story. But at the end of the day, he just always seems to come back to, yeah, you monetized your body and now you're either dead or you went through this whole trauma. It's like he's punishing women, you know, with the choking on the balloons in the first episode. And then all these different shots that Sydney Sweeney was put in. The wet American flag on her, the ice cream on her boobies. I just once again was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like another one of these sequences is insane. It's hard to put into words, but it truly rubs me the wrong way. And it's like a combination of a lot of little things, which is the issue with a lot of men. Like this one instance, isolated by itself, maybe seems pretty minuscule, but it's that on top of you had one of your characters say the hard R in this episode. Why? Directly to them. Like that is insane. Never catch me again making the mistake of watching this while eating my dinner. Like there's no fucking way. Meant to blur the lines between like disgusting and sexual and like erotic. He does it so often and it just makes me feel like he's a creep. The section in my notes is headed with Sam Levinson creep ass. Cause he's a creep ass. You can't watch his filmography and this show and not come away with that. Someone needs to go through his phone. Like someone needs to go through his laptop. He needs to be investigated. And for me, Euphoria has always felt like it's right on the cusp of really capturing the reality of our time and the cultural moment. But it's always kind of off. It's like uncanny valley vibes. Like it's never quite spot on. And I used to kind of feel like that was the charm of the show. And not that it isn't. I think that it's such a male perspective. You can't watch this show and think that it was made by a woman. Like this show is so clearly made by a man, right down to the dialogue. Some of the shit that women are saying is just like kind of out of touch. It's such a male perspective and then it's so male gazy. And I think that can be limiting. This show, it's covering women's issues. The majority of the cast is women. It's talking about sex and the growing OnlyFans industry, which is pretty much all female dominated. The porn industry, stripping, being a sugar baby, like these are all very uniquely women things, but he is commentating on them in this super heavy-handed way, and it's just kind of insane to me. So that is kind of just like always surrounding me when it comes to this show. Even in its strongest moments, it's like, yeah, but according to him. Does that make sense? I feel like it really doesn't, but kind of relating back to something I touched on in the first episode, when it comes to Rue being gay, it really feels like for two people who are not lesbians doing what they think lesbians do. Once again, we have an example of Rue checking a girl out at the strip club, which like isn't inherently bad, but it's just like is uncomfortable. It's hard to put into words. And then her saying that she's basically a guy directly after that. Lesbians aren't basically men just because they share an attraction to women. And again, it's like maybe I'm being too heavy-handed with this and maybe I'm being maybe I'm taking it too seriously. It's not that deep or whatever. But the ways that they're showing Rue be a lesbian is how men like treat and view women. She's like objectifying them. She's checking them out at the strip club, which is her dream job. She's basically a guy because she thinks these women are so hot and she's like checking them out in the same way a guy would, which again, I just feel like is a bold claim to be making as like not a lesbian. And then like the show is written and directed by a man. So I just have problems with that. I still love Rue's character and I am super excited for more rules stuff. I really think that Hunter Schafer, who is a part of the LGBTQ community, makes that relationship like so sweet and tender. Not saying Zendaya doesn't. I am excited for that Walla Walla content. Slay. Yeah, honestly, I'm like talked out. I think that overall I enjoyed this episode a lot. Was I shocked at many a moment? Hell yeah, I was. Was I left speechless at many a moment? Hell yeah. Can I not wait for the next episode? Hell yeah, I can't wait. I will check in with y'all in my massive check-in episode before next week. Otherwise, we will be back here next week to talk about new episode of Euphoria, season 3, episode 3. I'm pretty sure we're getting the Nate and Cassie wedding. Also bring back Cassie pre-lobotomy. What the fuck? What the fuck? Everything that comes out of that girl's mouth, I'm like, she really just said that. That's insane. I miss season 1 Cassie. I can't lie. I also can't lie and say that this season 3 Cassie and season 2 Cassie were entertaining. Sydney Sweeney, I cannot get behind that woman. We unfortunately are not Sydney Sweeney fans on this show. Okay, guys. That's it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to follow me on Instagram and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Spotify and TikTok. We'll see you next time. Lalas!